Welcome to another episode of Courageous Me. And today I just want to share some of the incredible learnings that I've taken away from just having spent 2 weeks over in America. And so I'm based here in Australia and it's freezing cold. It's the middle of winter here. So it was really lovely to go somewhere where it was really hot. But it was so cool because over the period of 2 weeks, I felt like I had three little mini, I'm going to say them breaks, but a lot of it was work. But I had three mini gatherings within that whole 2 weeks. So the first one was that I was lucky enough to get chosen to speak at the MDRT, which is the $1 Million Roundtable annual meeting over in Miami Beach in Florida. And oh my gosh, it was next level. So I've never ever been to this kind of conference where it's a global conference, right? So there's people there from all over the world. Like I've spoken in Hong Kong before, but it was an Australian based business that was just running a conference over in Hong Kong. This MDRT conference was a global audience. So it was so cool to be standing in the coffee shop queue and, when people are all around, they're having conversations. And I couldn't understand half the conversations because they weren't speaking English. It was so good. And actually, on that note, can I say, if you ever want to get your brain back into gear, so maybe you feel like you're a little bit stagnant or you're a little bit same old, seriously, just do something different. Like go to a different coffee shop or go to a different suburb, a different state, or even better, go to a different country. Because I tell you what, it certainly gets your brain kicking in. So after I've had this flight from Melbourne to Los Angeles, 16 hours, right? So I've been flying for 16 hours. I've got to stop over before I get my connecting flight to Miami. And all I want is a cup of real coffee, right? Not airplane coffee, a cup of real coffee. I go to a Starbucks and order a skinny flat white, right? Now that's my normal standard order that I would order here in Australia. So I asked for a skinny flat white. Once they put it into their system, and by the way, I didn't end up with a skinny flat white. It was something with soy milk. And anyway, that was all quite cute in itself. But once I'd ordered my coffee and they put the price in and then there's a tax and then there's something else and then there's a button that you got to push for the tip. Well, I pushed the lowest one, which was still 20%. Anyway, in the end, after converting from the US dollar to the Aussie dollar, that cup of coffee, which was just a small size, wasn't even the big giant one, ended up costing me 19 Aussie dollars. Now, I was enjoying that coffee, except my flight then got called. So I'm about to board the plane. I haven't finished this very expensive cup of coffee. So I put it in the bin because in Australia, you're not allowed to take your pre-purchased drinks, hot drinks like that, onto the plane. However, I'm walking onto the plane. So I'm walking down the gateway, get on the plane, and everyone has got their coffees or their iced coffees because it was hot, right? They're taking them onto the plane. I never got that memo. So not only have I paid all this money for this coffee, I've put it in the bin only to then find out that I could have taken it on board. Here's what's even cuter. While I've gone down the gate bridge walking onto my flight, there is a couple in front of me and they've got this cute little bag and I can see in the bag and there's a dog. There's a dog, like a little cavoodly kind of dog in the bag. So I said to the couple that owned the dog in the bag, is that a dog? And they said, yeah, it's a dog, right? His name's Brody. I said, oh, that's really cute. Is Brody allowed on this plane? And they've looked at me like I was an alien going, yeah, of course, dogs are allowed on planes. And I'm thinking, yeah, but I'm from Australia. Dogs aren't allowed on planes. Well, not where the passengers sit. Dogs might be allowed, but they go into the animal section, which is typically, I think, under the plane. So it was so cool. Firstly, I've had this coffee and now realize I could have taken it on, so I didn't need to throw nearly $19 into the bin. Secondly, they can take dogs on, and as long as the dog's in the bag and the bag goes under the seat in front and the dog's not a barking dog, they can travel. So this has all happened, and I haven't even landed at my destination. So it was so fun. But I tell you what, it really clicked my brain into gear to pay more attention to what's going on around me because I do often find I walk around with my head in a bit of a bubble. Or, like, has anyone else felt this? You walk around very much on autopilot. So you just go about your everyday and you don't really stop and think about it. changing up your routine, changing up the way that you normally do things. Like I said, it can just kick your brain into a little bit more gear. And it was so good because I was very, very aware from then on when I ordered a coffee, how I was ordering it, what I was ordering, what the price was when I then converted to the Aussie dollar. That in itself was a mind game for 2 weeks. But it was really, really interesting just experiencing that. Anyway, what I want to share is some of the things that I learned while I was away, either from other speakers or a workshop I ran, and what I took away from that, running workshops and masterclasses in Australia all the time, but doing it on the other side of the world, what was different and what was similar. So the first thing was at the MDRT conference, which is the $1 Million Roundtable, there was a speaker called Justin Forrester. And it was so cool because he was speaking about, you know, when someone's doing weightlifting, so they're lying back and they're lifting weights, and there's usually someone standing behind them called the spotter, whose whole role is that if the person doing the weights lying back on the bench press looks like their arms are getting wobbly, or they might drop it. So they're going to drop a barbell with a lot of weight onto them, which could kill them. Then this person's role is to catch that bar or hold that bar, stop it from falling on them and injuring them. And they call that a spotter. And he was talking about the role of a spotter, not just in weightlifting, but just in general life, which is having that person that helps you out when the weight of life or the weight of something you're going through gets a little bit heavy. And I love the analogy around this, that person being that, having that spotter there behind you, that person that's got your back, that person that is supporting you, that's helping lighten the load when it does get too heavy. I just thought that was gorgeous because I speak a lot about cheerleading and having people that cheer you on, having people that have got your back. They're in your corner with you. They're giving you the encouragement. They're giving you the support. They're giving you the feedback, or they're giving you the high five, or the it's okay if things haven't gone planned. That person I love. So I always talk about that and the role of the cheerleader, but I love that this was the role of the spotter. So when things do feel like they're a bit tough, who's that person, or those people, or that group, or that community that are there helping you lighten the load of life? And this is a really big one for women particularly, is having a community or a tribe, whatever you want to call it, but a group of other women who literally have your back, that are there supporting you, that are in the ring rumbling with you, but are there doing it so that you do your best, so that you survive, or that you go and achieve that thing. They're there with you. And it's such an important role. Here's the thing though, women aren't always that good at either asking for it or accepting it. So what I really learned from this guy, Justin Forrester's comments, but also from just being away, and I traveled on my own for most of the 2 weeks, is the people that I felt had my back, the ones that were here in Australia that I was still in contact with, or the ones that I was meeting over in America. So what was really cool, just in speaking about that, there was a room, which is the room that I spoke in for the conference. And there were other speakers, obviously, that spoke before me, that spoke after me, that spoke on days before me or days after. What I loved is the camaraderie between all of us speakers. So from the first one I went to, and I think the first one I saw was this gorgeous, gorgeous woman. She's got a PhD, and she's a doctor in habits. I've got that wrong, and I'm so sorry, but her name was Tamsin Astor. Oh my God. I not only loved her presentation, I took photos and videos of her, and I did that to be her spotter, to be the person that was there cheering her on, to be able to send her some footage and some photos afterwards. Because when you're the speaker, right, you can't take photos of yourself because you're usually attending to the audience and what you're trying to help them with. So to do that for her, like, one, it made me feel really good, because I tell you what, there's a lot of value in being someone else's spotter and being someone else's cheerleader, and being able to, provide that kind of support and cheer her on. So she was the first speaker. It was amazing. The second one was a gorgeous woman called Teresa Callahan. She was amazing. Another one was Amy Florian. She was amazing. The other woman was a woman called Doris Horenstein. And oh my God, she was fabulous. But what I loved most is all of their keynotes were amazing. But it was this little community that we formed with each other as fellow speakers that supported each other. Like I said, that took photos, that were there in the audience, and they did it back for me as well. I didn't know any of these women in advance. I met them there, and I met them because we were all doing something together. For some of us, it was the first time we'd done it in this MDRT environment. Some had also done it before, but it was absolutely beautiful. And so we became each other's spotters or each other's cheerleaders. And it was just the most magical experiences. So where are you a spotter for someone else? Or where do you need to be willing to say, yeah, I accept you as my spotter, or yeah, I am going to allow that help? Because like I said, as women, we're really good at thinking, no, I can do all this myself. I don't need to have some help. But oh my God, having a community, having your people, more important than ever. And in particular, I think as we get older, appreciating the importance of these people in your lives. Holy mackerel, this trip absolutely highlighted that big time. One of the things that I did on the trip, which was really cool, is a couple of years ago, I was part of a group called Thought Leaders Business School. And the whole concept of Thought Leaders Business School is to commercialize your IP. So basically to earn money from all the brilliant ideas that you come up with, that you have in your mind. And I joined just before COVID started. So the first couple of years of my experience was all online. And then the first lunch they ever had, which was in Melbourne, I'm based in Melbourne, they had a lunch. And as I walk into the room to sit down to have lunch, another fellow thought leader walked into the room. Now, this woman, her name was Ellen Rogan, and she's from Chicago. Ironically, she had been in Sydney speaking at the MDRT conference in Sydney. So the same one that I was speaking at in Florida this year, she was speaking at 2 years ago in Sydney. So she'd flown to Melbourne to come to this Thought Leaders lunch because we'd all been doing this online. So we'd never met before. We end up sitting next to each other and we work out, we've both got 30 years in financial services. So we're chatting away. We become buddies. And over the next couple of years, we stay in contact. So we have regular Zoom catch-ups and we just talk business. We just talk life, but we're getting to know each other, right? We're getting to understand. And you know those people that you can just be real with? You know the ones where you can tell the good, the bad, the ugly, the warts and all? This is what she became for me and we became for each other. And this is all over Zoom, right? Because I'd only met her that one time sitting next to her and had that conversation for, I don't know, maybe an hour. That's it. So when I was accepted to speak at the MDR conference over in Florida, I said to her, well, given I'm in Florida, why don't I just whip up to Chicago? Because on Google, like the maps, they don't look like they're that far. They're a little bit further in real life. So I've realized. Oh, that's another thing I learned. Don't trust Google Maps. When it doesn't look that far, like when it looks teeny tiny, yeah, it's not always that teeny tiny. I made that mistake. Anyway, I said, well, while I'm here, why don't I whip on up to Chicago and let's do something together? So we did. And we created this masterclass for women in business. And it was all around. So Ellen's specialty is prosperity. Mine is courage. So we called it Prosperity in Action because courage for me is action. And we ran this full day masterclass. Here's the thing though. Ellen and I had never, ever worked together. Ever, right? Yes, we've been communicating online via Zoom since we met 2 years earlier. We've never worked together. I've never even seen her work. She's never seen my work. But you know when you've just got this feeling that this is meant to be, this is what happened. And the night before the workshop, I fly into Chicago. Like I didn't fly in till 6 o'clock at night. Ellen comes and picks me up. We go out for dinner. This is the first time we've actually sat down together in the flesh and looked at, okay, we're running this thing tomorrow. We'd already put a workbook together. So we knew roughly what each other's specialty was. But it was the first time we sat down and said, okay, well, how are we going to make this work? What was the flow going to be? Who was going to go first? Who was going to go second? And I remember even before I left, I had a few people say to me, oh, Kim, isn't that a bit risky running a workshop with a woman on the other side of the world that you've never worked with before. And you know what? And they thought it took a lot of courage. But to me, it just felt so right and so natural. When have you had that? You know, when there's an opportunity to collaborate or to do something with someone else or others, and it just feels right. It felt right. Every single bone in my body and bubble in my blood was like, yeah, this is right. And guess what? It was. I was right. She was right. It worked a treat. And so much so that we had women from the workshop come up to us in the breaks and say, oh my God, it's like you two have worked together forever. Like it flowed, it complemented each other. We've got very different styles and they were a beautiful match. It was just such an epiphany of trusting your gut and following where it's leading you, because this led us to doing this. And this is what's even funnier, actually. So the night before, we're sitting and did it, like literally we're running this workshop the next morning. And we're saying, okay, well, if the women get value out of it, remember, we haven't run it yet, so we don't know. We're hoping they're going to get value. But if they do and they want more support, yes, we've given them information about how they could work with us individually. But what could we do together? So we sat there and we pulled together a little 4-week mini course and all of the things that they would get in that 4 weeks, put a price on it. The next day at the end of the masterclass, like went from 9 till 3, the masterclass, we shared what we'd come up with, and we had quite a number of people sign up for it there and then on the spot. Now, we were very, very clear that we only came up with this last night. There is no landing page. There is no sales page. There is no checkout page. There's nowhere you can go and read about what we're promising in this 4 weeks. It doesn't exist because we only developed it the night before. But this is what I love, that without all that other stuff, that we could just give it a go. Like talk about, practicing courage on the spot. And we did. And there were people that took it up. And so now I'm back in Australia and I'm so excited about planning this 4-week little mini program for some of the participants that are keen, with Ellen doing it when 2 weeks earlier when I flew out from Australia, I had no idea that was going to be happening. So this is a really good example of not waiting till you're ready. Because honestly, if we had have maybe planned that a little bit better, we probably wouldn't have done as good a job. Secondly, not waiting for things to be perfect. Now, I am a classic perfectionist people pleaser, right? This is something that has been part of my DNA since I was very, very young. And I don't say that with pride. I say that with an element of, I wish it was different. It's not. I've learned to deal with it. But the whole thing about perfection, it just doesn't work. So this was being able to practice what I preach. Practice doing something and putting it out into the world when it's not perfect. It's not even developed yet. Is it going to be great? It's going to be amazing. So certainly going in with a positive viewpoint or positive attitude, but not waiting till perfect. And actually one of the keynote speakers at MDRT, and I can't remember which one because there was so much goodness for 4 days, but he made a comment about practice makes better. Okay. And the whole saying practice makes perfect. It's practice makes better. Now, this might be a semantic around language, right? So, we all know the whole practice makes perfect, right? But just by changing that word perfect to better, for someone who is a classic perfectionist, who is absolutely doing everything in my power to try and drop the perfectionism, sometimes I do all right. Sometimes I'm terrible and revert back to old habits. But that saying alone was just really helpful for me. So practice makes better, not practice makes perfect, which means you don't need to strive for perfect. You just need to strive for better. Or I like to say, strive for excellence, not perfection. Again, we're talking semantics, we're talking changing language, but language is really important. Speaking of language, one of the things that Ellen shared in our Prosperity in Action workshop was she was talked a lot about prosperity and the abundance mindset versus the scarcity mindset, and in particular around the words that we use. And the words I want. So you know how I want this, and you think of manifesting, I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. That the nuance around that is there can be an element of scarcity or lack. You want it because you don't have it. So what she was saying, just flipping the script just a little bit, is instead of saying I want, say I value. Now, again, you might go, oh, well, that's ridiculous. It's saying the same thing. It's like, yeah, it might be, but the wiring our brain, just flipping it to I value means, I'll give you a good example. So when I was staying at Ellen's, my little baby travel hair dryer, which I hadn't used before, and I just picked it up from Kmart here in Australia. It was cute. It was pink, on brand. But when I went to dry my hair, even on the high speed, and I don't know whether this is just because I was in America and using different voltage. I don't know. Someone else might know how that works. I don't know how it works. But anyway, there was no power that came out of it, right? I've only got really thin, fine hair, but it wouldn't dry my hair. So I said to Ellen, could I please borrow your hairdryer? Well, she had this phenomenal hairdryer brand called Shark. I'd never heard of it, but it was called the Shark. I think it was a flex dry, and it looked like, I don't know, it looked like a magic wand out of Harry Potter or something, and then you bent the end, and holy mackerel, it was amazing. I'm now completely in love, obsessed with this Shark. So I get back home to Australia, Google Shark, and they're about $500, right? Amazing. But I'm flipping my script. Instead of saying, I want that Shark, I want that Shark, I'm saying, I value the Shark hairdryer, black with pink edges, because they do have one black with pink edges. I value that so much. So yes, I am manifesting it. Yes, I am putting it on my vision board. It's so cute. And only those that really understand the value of a hairdryer would understand how this works. I just thought that was a really cute example. So just changing the language from I want to I value just flips that script within your mind and in your subconscious from lack, I don't have it, to that abundance thinking and, I would like to have that in my life, as opposed to lack. So again, a bit of semantic, but I really, really loved it. Another thing that came through from running this workshop in America, so we had there was about 15 of us women, all either in business or running a business. And here's what's cool. I do similar work here in Australia, and the challenges that the women faced over in America were exactly the same. The challenges, the issues, the things that they're dealing with, all the same, okay? And when I say the same, of course, there's some differences. Like they all had accents. I know they thought I did, but they all had accents. And, they've got a different political system. They've got a different environment, and they're obviously on a different landmass. But the same challenges still came up. So it was really interesting for me to see how business women in another country, like on the other side of the world, still had exactly the same thing, because we're all human. We're all human, and we're all got similar challenges. We've all got those inhibitions, those invisible barriers that are holding us back, that are stopping us. What I also found during the masterclass, which I found really interesting, is that one of the things that I do when I run masterclasses in Melbourne, I have pom-poms, the fluffy pom-poms, but they're all sparkly and glittery. And the whole point of the pom-pom is when someone shares or when someone does something in the masterclass, we all get the pom-poms and we wave them and we cheer them, like we become their literal cheerleaders. So we had the pom-poms in our masterclass, and there was this priceless moment when one of the participants, this gorgeous, gorgeous wealth advisor called Dory, she's sharing, and it was an awesome share. And, the whole kind of, she went to pat herself on the back, and she's gone, do I pom myself? Right? Because she got the pom-pom. And it was like, do I pom myself? And it was such a cute, like we all giggled at the term pom yourself, which meant, do I, give myself the high five? Do I give myself the pat on the back? Do I actually say, hey, yeah, that was a good thing? Yourself. So that whole self-encouragement piece. And we absolutely loved it. So I did just reach out to her on LinkedIn to say, hey, I want to steal that term and give you credit. So this is a woman called Dory Rodriguez. She's the one that said, do I pom myself, which means do I congratulate myself? And the answer to Dory and to everyone else is absolutely you do. Because as women, we don't do it enough. How often do you pom yourself? Okay, literally. How often do you shake your own pom-pom? Okay, metaphorically. But how often do you say, yeah, hey, that's a job well done. I did good. I did my best and my best was really good. I'm really proud of who I am and what I did. We don't do that enough. So this is your permission to pom yourself, whatever that looks like. And if you need to go and buy, you can go to the $2 shop and buy a set of pom-poms. I know that because I bought one shop out of all their pom-poms so I could have them for my master classes. And it just adds that extra little bit of fun, but reminder to be able to celebrate, cheer, and support yourself. The other thing that came out during this conference was by a guy called Coach Michael Burt. And he was talking about this concept of positive expectancy, where you expect a positive outcome. And the way that you create that is by hanging around with people that are doing the kind of things or achieving the kind of success or on that path to growth, whatever that might be for you, but to hang around people like that, because it creates an environment where people are cheering each other on or people are achieving things or doing things or taking action. And I'm a really big believer in this. I've got a whole women's business club based on supporting each other to take action. And it's amazing that being in that environment, watching other people do the hard things, do the scary things, do the things where they've got to reach in and find some courage, but just observing them do that puts you in the space that, wow, if they're doing that, I can do it. So creating an environment of both people and an external environment where good things are going to happen, where positive things are going to happen. And it's funny in saying that because for those of us who've got a home office, and I know I've had many, many conversations with women in the past that have had home offices. Now, we also probably had those home offices during COVID and we've still got them. So where working from home used to be a novelty, it's now become a bit of a same old, same old. And I am absolutely the first person to put my hand up and say, this is me. I love my office. It's pretty. It's, it's decorated the way that I like it, but I get bored of it. And I get bored of walking into the same desk and I change it around all the time. It's still the same four walls. So if you're putting yourself in that place of positive expectancy, then sometimes it does mean changing the environment. Now, I appreciate this is a room in my house. I can't exactly change the room, although I do. I painted the wall black. I put different pictures around. I moved my desk around. Sometimes it means getting off my seat and getting my butt down to a cafe or getting my butt to someone else's house or getting my butt to one of those co-working spaces, something that gets me in a different environment, a different outlook, a different mindset. Actually, sometimes I even just get in my car, I drive down to the beach and I sit in my car on my laptop in my car. And I can't tell you how many amazing things I've done, how much of my book that is still in manuscript form I've written in my car. And the whole thing is just that it's changing my environment and getting me out of the same old, the familiar, the routine. And it's amazing. Again, you probably know about this, but this was one of those reminders that came to me when Coach Michael Burt made that comment around positive expectancy and putting yourself in the environment with both the people, the community, or the physical space that's going to lift you and rise you and challenge you and push you to do those things that you can do, but you've kind of got that extra kicker of support. Super, super cool. And the final thing that I want to share from my trip to America is buy travel insurance, which I did. Thank goodness I did, because you never, ever know when you are going to need it. And I don't care if things are tough or tight. Do not travel without insurance. It is one of those grudge purchases at the time, but when you need it, and my 30-hour trip back home turned into 60 hours because of airline delays, problems, stuff ups, and oh my God, because there was one moment where because of delays, I'd now missed one connecting flight and then my flight back to Australia. Here's the thing though, I think it's all resolved. I go to board a plane in Miami to now get to LA late already. I've already missed my connecting flight. As I go to get on the plane, the person standing taking my ticket says, no, stop. You can't board. this ticket is not valid. It was valid an hour earlier. It was valid, but by the time I went to board, it was now invalid because I'd made a call to the travel agency. Long story, won't bore you with it. But anyway, accidentally, they done something and cancelled that ticket. So I'm standing there. I've already been delayed and been traveling for 12 hours. So I'm tired. I'm standing at the gate. They won't let me on the plane. But here's the thing. My luggage was on the plane underneath. My big, beautiful bag and all the presents I'd bought and all my stuff has already been checked in and it's gone that plane. And they would not let me on. And then the guy at the service counter is yelling at me because, of course, I'm trying to get on a plane with an invalid ticket, not knowing it was invalid. And he's yelling at me and I'm watching the plane drive away or back away from the gate with my bags. And I'm stuck now in America. It is the 4th of July, so it is busy. And I now don't have a ticket and he's yelling at me. And so do you know what I did? This is really grown up and really mature. I burst into tears. Okay, I don't know why. I don't know why I burst into tears. But I just stood there. That little tiny little girl in me stood there like I had just done something naughty and I was getting scolded because this man's yelling at me for trying to board a plane with an invalid ticket. And I just cried. Anyway, long story short, this beautiful man did help me out. We eventually, I had to buy another ticket eventually. Anyway, I did end up getting to my destination at 4 a.m. Only to then have to wait around. Anyway, the long and the short of it is buy travel insurance. Insurance is such an important thing. And secondly, things don't go to plan, right? So there are moments when, coming back to whole expectation setting, there are moments when you can't predict what's going to happen, but how you respond to them. I don't recommend crying at the airport. However, the beautiful man, after he'd been yelling at me, then stayed with me for an hour and a half trying to fix this problem when in the meantime he's meant to be helping others board planes and planes that were coming in, get the passengers off. He was meant to do that. His supervisor even said, you need to get back to your job. You can't keep helping this woman. He stayed with me the whole time until I had a new ticket on a different plane that got me to the destination I needed to get to my next flight. This was such a beautiful example of someone really seeing me, someone not just listening because he was brushing everybody else off while he was attending to me. And he could have brushed me off because he did try to a few times at the beginning. Like I said, the tears probably helped, but really seeing me, really helping me and really supporting me. He was my spotter. He was my cheerleader. And I am so grateful that there are people in this world who play those roles. They might not always have intended on playing them, but so grateful for people that play that role because it absolutely was the savior that gave me a little bit of sanity, eventually stopped the tears, and I was able to get safely home to my beautiful family back here in Australia. On the whole, the most amazing trip, the most amazing example of getting out of routine, changing things up a bit. Like I said, even buying that first coffee that cost me 19 Aussie dollars, meaning being just a bit more aware, getting off autopilot, doing things a bit differently. So my question to you is, where are you on autopilot? Where do you need to change things up? Maybe just go to a different cafe to the one you normally go to. Maybe drive to work in a different direction. Just where can you break things up to reset, to re-trigger, to get that brain juice reflowing in a different direction? Whoa. I tell you what, it made me very excited to come back to my office, the one that I was getting a bit blah, blah, blah with, to sit here and to get back into my normal routine because I'd had a break. And you know what? We all need a bit of a break. We all need a bit of a reset and a refresh. And if you can't go to America or you can't go out, how else can you do it? Because at the end of the day, we're all human and we're all doing our best. But where can you set yourself up so that you can do and be better than you have been doing? Not perfect, but better.